some people, they think they can benefit if other people are altruistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess they think if other people are altruistic, then those other people will be living for or trying to benefit the people who are saying it's good to be altruistic. And so those people who are saying it's good to be altruistic, they want to benefit themselves, and they think they will get that benefit by preaching altruism and getting other people
Mm-hmm.
to live for others, and then they themselves will be part of those others who are benefiting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, okay, well, I guess if that's the idea, then the people who are preaching altruism are being, I guess they're being egoistic by by preaching altruism, but they're not uh, acting altruistic themselves, even though they're preaching it. So there's a tension.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I guess if I were to come across one of these people who's saying it's good to be altruistic, um, I would want to see, does his own actions match his words? Like, is he acting in a way that he claims to be good? Because if he says altruism is good, does he really mean that? Is he acting in accordance with that? Or is he only saying this because he wants other people to act in a certain way, which he himself is not willing to act? If he himself is not willing to act in the way that he preaches is good to act, then I would wonder, does this guy really believe altruism is a good thing, or is he just using it to exploit other people? Uh, which I think might actually have happened historically. People, I think maybe uh, certain religious leaders have realized that altruism, you can get people to do your bidding. Uh, you can exploit people if you get them to buy into the idea that they have this obligation, or a moral obligation. They're good moral people if they live for others. And you secretly yourself think, oh, I'm going to benefit. I'm going to be the recipient of their sacrifices. I'm going to be the beneficiary by convincing all these other people that it's good to live for others. But I myself, I really know that's I don't buy into that. But I'm going to convince others. So instead of having to force them, like use physical violence, put them in chains in order to basically make them my slaves. I mean, nobody wants to be a slave. No one will voluntarily choose to be a slave to somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
because that makes it obvious that you're forcing someone to act in a way that they're not choosing to act.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have to force them. But if you can get them to believe that it's good to do the same thing that a slave would do,
Mm-hmm.
but to do it voluntarily, well, then you save yourself a lot of trouble. You don't have to have a fight with them. You can just uh, change their own mind so that they act in the way that you would want them to act if you did force them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think altruism is kind of a tool if it's used like that, and I suspect it has been used like that. One example that might support this is, I think priests would often say, like going back thousands of years, I don't know if Babylonia is a good example of this, but these ancient Near Eastern religions, they'd say, make your sacrificial offerings, bring your crops, or at least a certain percentage of your crops or your goats or whatever, bring it to the temple,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll make a sacrifice to the god. Well, the priests who are preaching this, they weren't the ones who did the work of raising the goats or doing the farming. They just sit back and tell other people, they convince them, this is a good thing to do. You got to make your sacrificial offerings to the gods, or else the gods are going to be angry, and they're going to, inflict a plague or something, a flood or whatever, to punish. And they get people to buy into this, and then people, they do their honest toiling away to produce their crops or raise their herds, and then they they bring their offerings to the temple, and the priests, they I guess they can, maybe they can take a cut at that point. They can eat some of the food. They didn't have to work for it themselves, but and they didn't have to fight anybody for it. They just convinced other people that it was good to do this. So actually, the whole idea of mysticism and supernaturalism is tied in here with the idea of altruism. Maybe there is no rational earthly justification for giving your earnings to somebody else and letting somebody else live on you basically as a parasite. You haven't done any work yourself. There's no way to rationally justify that, and no one would buy that. But if you can convince people, I guess faith also comes into play here. If you get people to throw out reason, they don't think through things rationally. If you get them to take things on faith, like there are these gods, and they demand these offerings, and if you don't bring the offerings, they will punish you. If you can get people to believe that, then you can get them to act in certain ways so that you can basically live off of other people instead of having to live productively yourself.